Do you have a favorite color or color combination? And if so, do you include it in your work somehow?
My favorite colors are actually the ones that happen during dusk and nighttime. So moving more into cool colors, blue and violet. And sometimes when you have these sort of H alpha modified astro cameras, like the magentas and the reds that come along with that, and that sort of like fire and ice color combination is really attractive to me. And I have to pair that with my favorite sort of terrain on Earth, which is the desert. So we've got that whole palette of yellows and oranges and reds that come with, sedimentary landscapes. Okay, all the colors.
We are here with Calibrite Ambassador Matt Hill. Matt, coffee, tea, something else.
Definitely coffee. 100% coffee. Coffee all the time. Okay, coffee in the morning, but sometimes coffee at night.
Why are you a photographer? Or are you a photographer? Do you do filmmaking as well, or do you do both?
I am both. I am primarily a photographer, and I don't talk much about being a filmmaker, but I make my vocation through photography, but I have to do filmmaking to talk about photography. And in the past, I have done some things professionally. I don't talk about this much, but I've edited a feature film. So I speak the language, I use the medium of filmmaking, but my primary creative craft is photography.
Who are you making your art for?
Oh, me. I make my art for me.
And what do you get out of it?
I have this passion to always improve. I have this passion to answer what if constantly. What if I do this? What if I do that? I have a real curiosity about knowing what's on the other side of that question. So I ask that question and then I follow it pretty voraciously until I reach the highest point I can go. And then I ask it that another version of that question to see if I can go higher or deeper.
And does that take you to higher places and deeper places? Is there a what's next?
Literally and metaphysically, yes, both. My current vocation is education, and I shoot to teach and I teach to shoot. So I get to go all of the places I've always wanted to go in the world in order to pursue this. So I get to go to the tops of mountains and to the bottom of canyons and out on the ocean in pursuit of making beautiful night photography in wild, beautiful places. And also because I teach, I have to be the best explainer I can be. And to do that, I need to do things and then think about how to speak about them. And then I need to do them again until it's good enough to explain it to somebody, and then do it again until it's the best way I can explain it at the time.
And you are so good at this teaching thing, as I have had personal experience. If you could be anywhere right now, where would it be and what would you be doing?
Well, I have not, surprise, ever been to Iceland. So I would like to go to Iceland next, and I'll be there twice next year for almost 3 or 4 weeks. So I get to scratch that itch. But beyond that, I would really, really love to see more places in the Southern Hemisphere. I want to explore the entire South American continent more deeply. I want to see all of Chile. I want to see the rest of Argentina. I want to go back to Ecuador. I love the Andes, and I love the Pacific coast down there and everything that smashes up when they meet, and geologic uplifts and erosion and all the things that happen with that, and the high desert there too. I need to go to Atacama in Bolivia to get to those places. Basically need to go everywhere where there's beautiful landscapes paired with dark skies.
And just out of curiosity, are the skies different down there?
Yes, everything's upside down. No, literally, if you're looking at constellations, they're upside down. And you can see some things in that night sky that you can't see here, like the large Magellanic Cloud and the small Magellanic Cloud are visible to the naked eye when you're down there. And I saw them last year when I was in Easter Island, and it was such a thrill. And I've been to Buenos Aires a number of times, got some family there, but there's so much light pollution, it's hard to see anything. So once we got out to the campo, to the country, then I started to get to see those sorts of things. And Rapa Nui is at least 2,000 miles from anything, so it's pitch black out there, and it was really easy to see the Southern Cross, and the Magellanic Clouds and other things that are unique to the Southern Hemisphere there.
I would like you to think back to that aha moment when you found that a color workflow was important for you.
It came in two parts. The first part was when I was in my early 20s and I was running a color lab in White House Station, New Jersey. I worked for Sandrian Camera, and I had worked my way up from the counter level to running this color lab. So I did C41 and E6 processing, but the C41 printing was all by hand. It wasn't machine color graded. So we had to evaluate every single negative by eye and then apply a color correction to it. And it was at that moment, as I got better at it, that I realized that this eye sees warmer and this eye sees cooler, but together they're neutral. And as I did more color printing, I had to keep that in mind so that I couldn't close my right eye, which is my weaker eye, and use my left eye, which is sharper. I had to use both eyes at the same time. So I became critically aware of color and nuances in color as I was doing hand color printing in the darkroom. And then when digital photography happened, it was mayhem. It was absolute mayhem, and people were trying to make things look like they should. And then I was introduced to first Monaco, then X-Rite, and now Calibrite, and the tools that they have. And I instantly recognized that it was a lot easier to have something that helped me get past the technicality of having the correct colors and to the creative aspects of it. It was way better than just fighting or pushing upstream or guessing. So I was instantly attracted to it as a solution that got me more of what I wanted.
Do you have favorite tools?
Oh yeah, I can't live without my color checker, whether it's the Passport or the Nano for the macro photography. Color profiles of cameras have become like breathing to me, and especially with all the nuances with night photography, it just pops those special colors into place. A colorimeter is absolutely essential. So I'm using the latest and greatest, the HL. And that one, I have 3 displays here. I've got my MacBook Pro, and I've got 2 BenQ monitors, the SW321 and the 272U. So I have a control center here. And if those don't match, and if they're not at the correct luminance and contrast, I'm making bad decisions before I even start editing. So I need to get that out of the way and confidence in it in order to move forward.
Springboard from that and imagine you're in your teaching place, your happy place.
Yeah.
And you're surrounded by complete novices, and
Yeah.
you need to explain color control to them.
Imagine if you had the confidence to show somebody a picture and know that the color was right and the contrast was right. Okay, that's not where you're at yet. Imagine if you showed somebody a picture and they said it's too dark, or the color's kind of weird, or something distracting happened. Well, you can fix that. It doesn't take much money. It doesn't take much time. Let me explain it.
I know you well enough to know that there are always creative ideas bubbling around. What's exciting you most of late?
I have been taking a deep dive into night panorama photography for 2 or 3 years now. As soon as I realized that panorama as a method was a way to more artfully render what I saw as being the truth, I learned as much as I could about it, and I obtained the proper tools to do it. And as soon as I did that, I realized that there really wasn't enough information about it, so I incorporated it into the teaching, and I run panorama intensives with National Parks at Night now, and I've done a good job of understanding one of the pieces of software that's integral to this, which is PTGUI, or what people call PTGUI. There's a lot of pieces you got to put together, from planning to capture to processing, in order to make a panorama that satisfies, that doesn't distract somebody, that thrills them. So I threw myself into it with the knowledge that I had to explain it to a group of people during the panorama intensive. Honestly, if you're a teacher, you know this. Having to package something to show to somebody else and to help raise them up to get them closer to their goals only makes you better. I learned everything I could, and more than I wanted to do this, so that I could answer any of the questions that I could anticipate. Getting out of the weeds on that one, panoramas thrill me because I can look at a scene and say, I got this. And just that confidence to say, I can show somebody, or try and provide the feeling that I have looking at this scene photographically, makes it feel like I have a really important tool when I look at a scene. instead of just taking one picture, I can take a couple of pictures or 40 pictures and put them all together and make a scene that makes somebody stop and consider and enjoy and perhaps ask questions.
As a friend, it is so thrilling and delightful. Your personality just went up even to a higher place than it normally is as you were talking about that. So it's always thrilling to see when people discover something that brings them so much joy. I want you to go all the way back and think back to when you were 20, to when you were likely just starting out, unless it was earlier. Is there an elevator pitch you might give yourself?
Oh. A, get off your ass and just do it. B, stop thinking about reasons why it won't work and just do it. C, why were you thinking about this? Just go do it. There were too many times in my life where I was thinking about the hurdles that were in the way rather than why it was going to work out. So I would tell my 20-year-old self, stop thinking so hard, go out, make mistakes fast, and learn from them.
Let's think about a whole bunch of young people today. Are there questions that you're asked on a more frequent level by aspiring creative folks?
What gear should I get? And boy, that's a loaded question. I'm a firm believer in that you should use what you have until it gets in the way. When it prevents you from making the thing that you want to make, then you invest the appropriate amount of money to get the next thing that helps you achieve your goals. So it's really important to not get lost in we were just talking about this, get lost in the reasons why you can't do something because you don't have something, right? Instead, you should think about all the reasons why it's possible to do it with what you have and to stretch that stuff as wide and as long and hard as you can until it just doesn't perform to spec. And then you find a way to obtain the thing that helps you get over that hurdle. So that's gear. The other question I get the most often is, how do you get your ideas? And I'm going to go back to the what if. I look at a situation and, oh my gosh, I have a funny story to tell, and it might sound weird, but I'm going to tell it anyway. I have a dear friend that I went to high school with that we lost contact for 10 years. And then we found each other again, and we started going on road trips. And we probably did like 20, 30,000 miles of road trips in the United States together. And he's not a photographer. He's a programmer, wicked smart. And we're both confident on different things, right? So as a photographer and as a creative, I had my camera with me, and he had his social skills with him, and like we would go out and meet people and do things and have adventures. But one of the things I said to him is, you can throw a rock and I will stand on where you threw that rock and I can take an interesting picture. This was an arrogant statement. And I was, 20s, 30s, whatever. I was coming out of like a bad place and trying to get to a good place. So it thrilled me to give myself that challenge. And I knew he was going to do it. And he did it often. So I had to live up to that. But the reason I believed I could do it was because there's always a way to make an interesting photograph, is a firm belief of mine, and it always has been. And if somebody else chooses to adopt that belief, it can only help you. That way you can get out of the way of the things you think are wrong with the situation, or say, what do I shoot? Just point your camera and take a picture and then criticize it. How do you be creative? By making pictures and looking at them and developing a language and articulating what you do like and don't like about them, and then making another picture. That's the process.
So now, as a night photographer, which to me feels much more technical on some levels. I mean, there's certainly a huge aspect of creativity, but are there things that are more challenging for you based on what you just said? We just had a solar eclipse. What did you shoot that with? Talk to me about that.
Okay, well, let's break it down. Night photography is harder, period. It's harder on the gear. It's harder on the patience of the photographer. It's hard to see what's going on. If you turn on a light, you destroy your night vision. Setting all those things aside, it's rather simple. You put a camera on a tripod, you open the shutter, you close the shutter, you see what happens. That's night photography. The cool thing is things happen while the shutter is open. Instead of a fraction of a second, you get a whole second, or 18 seconds, or 4 hours. So you can do lots of cool stuff in between the opening and the closing of the shutter. The devil's in the details. You have to deal with high ISO if you want to get sharp little start points, or you have to deal with long exposure noise if you leave the shutter open. So these are details that you learn to say, these are boundaries, and I know where I should stop because the quality will be affected after that. And those are the things you learn as you move forward. Night photography should thrill. For me, I was always attracted to night photography, which I've been doing since I was 14 or 15, because of the things that you cannot predict. Daytime photography to me seems achievable. You know what to do, the settings are easy, it happens in a fraction of a second. In night photography, the thrill of the unknown happens either quickly or slowly, but you have time to enjoy where you're at. When there's short moments of night during the daytime, such as solar eclipses, those happen rather rapidly. For instance, the annular eclipse that we just had in October, we took a group out to Utah, to Capitol Reef National Park, and the eclipse was 3 hours long, but totality was 3.5, 4 minutes. So we did a lot of preparation for a very short amount of time for the eclipse, but all of us were shooting 2 photos, close-up photos of the sun as it went through angularity, and wide composites, so you can see the path of the sun and as the moon was passing in front of it. So there's 2 different technical challenges, and you practice and you test and you get ready for it and you do your best. Next year in April, there'll be a total solar eclipse. We'll be there too, except we will be in Arkansas at Hot Springs. And that's going to be a blast because the exposures change radically. With the annular solar eclipse, it's funny, the exposure didn't change much because there was still sunlight peeking around the moon. With a total solar eclipse, your exposure can change dramatically to get the corona and details and details and details. So yes, it's thrilling. Yes, it's technical. But once you get some basic tools under your belt and concepts, you can photograph anything that happens in the absence of light or the perceived absence of light.
Talk to us about National Parks at Night and what's going on with that.
National Parks at Night is a group of 5 educators. We're all partners, and we are dedicated to teaching anybody who wants to learn night photography. And we do this in wild, wonderful spaces. We sometimes do it in suburban and urban places too. We do it in America, we do it around the world. We're entering our 9th season now, and I'm very grateful. It's been a wonderful journey with these guys, and we have loads of people that adore going places with us, and we are thrilled to go places with them. It's a deeply satisfying thing to pass along the things that we're thrilled about to other people that love doing it too. So in that sense, we're very, very fortunate that this is what we get to do, and we love the people we do it with.
So you're going into season 9, if
Yes.
I recall.
Yep.
So are there spots? Can people sign up? Where are you going? What are you doing?
Oh my gosh. Well, we are going lots and lots of places. We do have a very rabid alumni group, and they get first access to workshops and tours. And they did a pretty good job of selling out a bunch of them. We do have places that have spots open right now. We're also going to Easter Island. We're going back there. We're going to Lofoten, Norway. And those are photo tours. But we also teach, for people who are just interested in getting into it, an introduction to night photography, sort of a 101 level course, where instead of jumping right in at a workshop, which you're welcome to do, you can go to something that's specifically geared towards getting you started. We have technical courses, such as a post-processing only course, and the Panorama Intensive that I mentioned, but that got sold out pretty quickly, and lots of other opportunities. But if you're curious, who knows when this is going to air, just check out nationalparksatnight.com and you'll see all of the available workshops there.
Okay. And where can people see more of your personal work?
matthillart.com. I had a project that's on pause right now that I absolutely was thrilled about, called Night Paper, where I'm also a cut paper artist, which I'm not really talking about right now, where I created paper fashions for people to wear and made long exposure portraits of them at night. And that's a really fun project. I can't wait to pick that one up again someday.
Are you going to? I was going to ask if he was coming back at any point.
I will. I will. It's funny when you start to build something like national parks at night. If you don't throw yourself into it, um, then you're not giving it the best chance to grow. And that's really what I've done. Like I want this to succeed so badly. I'm putting my best energies into it. Also, it's kind of a practical thing. I got a little bit of like pain in my wrist, and like using the Exacto knife to create those fashions. It was about 8 hours of cutting per fashion. So a little bit of therapy, and my wrist will be back together. We can get back to making some fashions.
Matt, I want to thank you for spending this time with us. It is always delightful. I hope everyone who is watching this has a sense of the delight and the joy that Matt just shares and brings to everyone who comes in contact with him. Please go give him a look and take a course from him, because I can tell you firsthand, he is everything you have listened to and an exponential amount more. He is one of my favorite educators and creators around. So it's a real pleasure, Matt. Thank you again.
Thank you, Alan. The feeling is mutual, and appreciate your time too.